Welcome officially, everyone, to our live workshop. We do these monthly, and we're so excited to have you join us for this real-time interaction. We really love talking to social media marketers and managers and coordinators to find out what they're interested in, what they need to know when it comes to social media marketing. And this is certainly one of the chances we have to do that person to person. You can hear my voice live. We can certainly do that anytime on social media, but it's just nice to have this live interaction, I think, a dedicated space for it. And our topic today is how to measure success on social media. I think that we get bogged down in trying to make measuring our success complicated, and it's really not that complicated if you remember to think about it in terms of marketing and in the traditional marketing terms that a lot of the CEOs that we report to are used to hearing. And if we think about it in those terms, it's not that difficult to do. It's not that overwhelming unless you make it overwhelming. We'll talk about some ways to just simplify reporting, measuring, seeing what is successful and what is not. Our session today is being moderated by our fantastic marketing coordinator at the Splash Media U campus in Orlando, Julio Lebron. And Julio is the one who will be answering some of your questions in the chat room, as well as asking our poll questions. And often the person who responds, if you tweet to Splash Media U, and I'll show you how you can do that at the end. But Julio is our fantastic marketing coordinator here with us. I'm Duncan Gilman. I'm the Dean of Students for Splash Media U, which, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a social media training program. We offer an option for open viewing of courses, as well as a certification option for those who want to be certified in social media so they can get started or continue and further their career in social media with a portfolio behind them. That's what we offer, and really love doing it. I got to tell you, even for those of you who are students, you may not know that I've been doing this since about mid-2012 is when we started this program, and I've just had so much fun interacting with students. That's probably the best part of my job, is interacting with students and talking to them about how they're actually implementing social media. My favorite part, favorite thing to do, brainstorm with students and try to solve their issues, try to solve problems that they're working through on social media. So love doing it, but doing it now, going on 5 years, and just been having a blast. Can't wait to talk to you more about it. The main theme, if you take away nothing today besides this, I hope you take away this, when we talk about measuring success on social media, it is not an island. It is not a silo. Social media is part of a larger marketing picture. So if you try to measure your success in terms of just likes or interactions on a single post, you will never be able to see the big picture of how social media impacts your bottom line, how it relates to sales, how it really drives revenue, which it does, but you'll never be able to see that if you think of social media working alone. It is not. It is not working alone. It is part of your larger marketing picture, and we're going to talk about what that actually means. Let's get started today with our first question, leading into our first topic. What are the metrics that are most important to you? If you are the marketing, the main marketing person at your company, or if you have social media clients, what are the statistics that are most important to those clients? If you report to a COO, a CMO, a CEO, something that starts with a C and ends with an O, what metric is that person looking for? Are they looking for what's your cost per lead, cost per acquisition? What is the stat that's most important to them? Because that's what you need to measure. I think we get bogged down, again, talking about how many likes do I have? How many followers do we have? Speaking of followers, that was the last question of our trivia before we started our workshop today. We get bogged down in this. How many followers do I have? Stop thinking about it in terms of followers and start thinking about it in terms of what metric is actually important. I think we'll be a lot more efficient in our social media campaigns if that's where we have our mindset. So feel free to chat that in, either Facebook, Twitter, and Julio, if you want to share. In fact, maybe what I'll do is, since I did open Twitter for my last little exploration there during trivia, I will open up that hashtag on Twitter here on my phone so I can follow along there. And Julio, if you see any on Facebook you want to submit, please feel free to go ahead. And otherwise, if you're here joining us on, if you want to submit your answers here on join.me, go ahead and use the chat room and talk about the most important metric in terms of what your company needs to know. Or if you have clients, what your client needs to know. What is the one they ask you about the most? When they come to you and say, how are we doing? What is the stat that they want to know about? And if it's a client who just cares about the money, then clearly that's a cost per acquisition. That's the one that's important, or maybe a cost per lead. But maybe if it's just revenue bottom line, how much are we paying to get that customer in social media? Let me go back to, let me refresh my search on the hashtag here, and we'll go on and talk about, and feel free, you can keep submitting your answers. I'm going to go ahead and move on to explain a little bit more about this slide, but of course you can keep submitting your answers if you like. So the answer I would suggest to you, well, the way to find what is most important, one way to find, is to measure backwards. So one of our viewers, viewer number 11 there, says cost per lead, very important stat. I think, and now let me just clarify what you see here. I'm oversimplifying this calculation. I want to say that up front. This is an oversimplification. But if you start here, then you can get more complicated. I would start simple, start easy, and this is a way to do that. If you measure backwards from the sale, use how much a customer is worth to you to determine how much you can spend to get a customer. Again, we're thinking about that backwards. We're thinking about it from the end result to how much you can spend. But I think if we start simple, it clears our minds to think more fluidly, more efficiently about how we can actually budget for social media and measure the results that we're seeing on a per click, per capture basis. So let's have an example here. I'm talking in general terms. Let's have a simple, specific example. Let's say that your average customer spends $50 with you a month. Now, clearly, this is probably more the case for a customer if you are a software as a service type of operation. If you have clients who are with you month after month, that's the kind of revenue you might see. Now, it may be that if you sell cars, maybe customers they don't spend $50 with you a month, they spend $20,000 with you every 5 years. That's also possible. Or they may lease. That's a separate conversation. But you get the point that there is a wide range of how much and how often customers buy from you. But let's just say, for the sake of this example, that it's your average customer brings in to your business $50 a month of revenue. So the next step is, how many of your leads do you convert into those $50 a month sales? Let's say it's 10%. That's sort of a good guess, I think, across a lot of industries. That may not be where you're seeing leads convert, but I think it's a good sort of round number that a lot of businesses probably see. About 10% of their leads become actual customers. Some may be considerably less, some may be more, not as often, but I think somewhere between 1 and 10% is a good guess. But it's a good round number for our purposes, because that, through easy division, means you'd need to spend less than what? $5 on each lead every month. Because if 1 out of 10 of those leads actually converts, that lead will make up the money that you spent on the other 9. Are you with me so far? Again, I'm oversimplifying, because obviously you have more to spend on than just marketing. You have to pay for your office. You have to pay for your staff. And these numbers probably should be included in some version of your cost per lead. But for the sake of this example, for the sake of finding out how much you can spend on social media, it's important to know how much you can spend per lead. Right? So then you can divide. So this is a start. This is a simplified start, but then you keep going. This is where you keep going and say, okay, 10% of my leads become customers. What percent of my interactions, what percent of my impressions become leads? See where I'm going with this? So let's say that 1% of your impressions become leads, and then 10% of those leads become customers. So you could continue this division and find out, well, if 1%, that's 1 out of every 100, and take out your calculators now, please. Join me, fellow nerds, take out your calculators. If 1% of your impressions, of your interactions, of the people who, and by impressions, it could be in a wide variety of things. People who comment on a Facebook post, people who visit your website, people who do any number of, take any number of steps on your various platforms. If 1% of those take the next step to become leads, because maybe they give you their contact info, maybe they fill out some sort of a form, maybe they download an ebook. If 1% of those become leads, how much money can you spend on each one of those? So then you figure out what's a penny on the dollar for $5? 5 cents. All right? Sort of clear where we did that. So if 1% out of so if you need to spend less than $1 per lead, and you were looking at 1% of your impressions becoming leads, you would be able to spend a penny per impression. But we said that in this, again, oversimplified example, that we need to spend less than $5 to make that up. That would be 5 cents. So you have about 5 cents less, ideally less, to spend to get those impressions. To get those impressions in order to turn 1% of them into leads and 10% of those leads into customers. Just a way to think about how you structure and budget for social media. Question number 2, speaking of those leads, how do you currently generate them? And I think this is going to affect question number 1 a great deal, because it's important to look at how you go after those leads to show how you're going to structure, how you're going to refer the traffic there from social media. How do you currently generate your leads? Is it through some sort of a landing page? Is it through email sign up? Is it through, do you get a lot of leads through social media? Do your social media campaigns, are they very successful for you and you're able to generate a lot of leads that way? Do you somehow advertise your phone number and get a lot of phone calls inquiring about your product? And that's true. That's still true. I would encourage you not to discount the telephone. People still pick up the phone and inquire about services still today. So it's possible that you just happen to be in a vertical, in an industry that gets a lot of phone calls, that just has a demographic that prefers talking on the phone. Totally fine. Is that how you generate your leads? Is it through a webinar, a workshop like this? When Splash Media, the agency, was first forming and building their business in Dallas, Texas, in about 2009, 2010, summer of 2010 or so, one of the main ways they generated leads and generated customers was through live workshops. I don't mean live like this kind of live, like a webinar. I mean in-person workshops all across the Metroplex, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So how do you generate your leads these days? Phone calls, cold calling. Do you have lists of leads that you buy, lists of potential customers that are related to your business or possibly interested in your industry? So here's what I would encourage you to do when it comes to thinking about how you generate your leads. And this is probably our question and answer that's most closely related to the slide I had up at the very beginning, the image that I had up at the very beginning, which was you cannot think of social media as an island, because it's not. It's one piece of your social media marketing puzzle. So what I would suggest, and thank you so much. Please keep interrupting me with your answers, and I mean that. I mean that sincerely. Viewer 11 put in an answer, and do that anytime, certainly. E-blasts was how, email marketing was how one of our viewers. Google, our moderator Julio, because we do a lot of our lead generation for Splash Media U through Google, absolutely. So an example related directly to our business specifically. So I would suggest if you have your strongest lead generation tool in your mind, send people there from social. Use social as one of your lead generating engines. not necessarily engine, maybe spark, maybe ignition is a better way if we're going with the engine metaphor here. Use social media as sort of the spark that drives them to that lead generating engine. So let me give you an example. In the case of email, make email not necessarily the destination. I think a lot of times we think of e-blasts as the end-all be-all of our marketing campaign. It's fine if you get most of your good leads, most of your solid leads, the ones that convert into customers through email. But I would encourage you to think about email as just a mark along that path and a way to get your leads and your customers even more involved, not necessarily just here's an email, that's it. An example of this, actually we talked about this in our last workshop when we talked about creating a compelling story for marketing. Great example of this, just because I happen to be subscribed to their email list, is through MailChimp. And it's funny that MailChimp also happens to be an email marketing provider, but they practice what they preach. They have a great email marketing program through this series where they talk about and they talk to different small businesses and how they're using email and social media for their marketing. And the way they've set up this email series is just brilliant because it tells a story each time. It has different animated GIFs throughout. It makes the email itself really interesting and engaging. It's a vehicle for learning more about the company. It's not just click here to get your offer. Does that make sense? And I think if we think about that throughout each of these sparks that leads toward however we capture these customers, through emails, through social, through someone suggested hard copies, maybe your print advertising, your print assets are still a valuable resource to you. That's great. But you think about these as individual platforms themselves. Think about how they can help you tell the story and then send people there because they're curious to your to wherever you're driving those leads. These are great answers. I see some of your chat comments coming in. Thank you. Keep those coming in, and I know Julio is responding to them. So a couple more ways to think about how you might send people and how you might measure how people are being sent from social is to set these up in Google Analytics. I hope that you will start using Google Analytics immediately after this workshop if you're not already. But Google Analytics makes it super simple to see and measure how much traffic you're bringing directly from social, because you can show specific sites how much traffic is coming from Facebook, how much traffic is coming from Twitter. You can even go per campaign, and Google Analytics takes it a step further with their campaign URL builder. It's a way to actually, you probably, if you've seen one of these URLs, I'm sure you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's one of those URLs that's got the main website and it's got maybe a question mark and then the word source. One of these long URLs that's not the exact website, but it's got all this other codey looking stuff. You can make those yourself. It's super easy. There's a website I put on the bottom. That's where you get started in building these custom URLs per campaign. So not only can you see how much traffic you drove from Facebook, but you can see how much traffic you drove to your site to a particular campaign from a specific Facebook post. Because instead of using, I'll use Splash Media U as an example, instead of having a link of www.splashmediau.com, instead of linking from there on Facebook, you can start with that website and add these campaign terms to create a custom URL that is specific to one link. It's not general. It's not showing all traffic from your website, which I think from Facebook that would do if you just link directly to your Facebook. You can show how much traffic is coming from this one link, this one campaign. If you have, 30-day free trial or 50% off, you can show exactly how much traffic is coming from that one campaign by building your own custom URL at that website. It's a little bit complicated. That's why I put it down at the bottom there. Google Analytics well, it's abbreviated, but ga-dev-tools.appspot.com/campaign-url. It's a little bit complicated. So again, we are recording this workshop, so you can come back and view this slide again. You can, if you didn't get a chance to copy down that that address bar. And maybe Julio can even, after we pass this slide, maybe Julio can even add it into the chat window so you can copy and paste it. But again, the purpose there is not only can you see how much traffic is generated from Facebook, from Twitter in basic Google Analytics goals and funnels, or by using trackable shortened links. Maybe you've heard of a service like bit.ly, bit.ly, which is a great resource for shortening and tracking links. But you can also go campaign specific by building one of these by building one of these custom URLs that includes things like source. Thanks, Julio. I just saw that he put that in the chat window. It includes things like the source, the medium for every campaign you do, build it right in Google, and it's actually designed to be used with Google AdWords, but you don't have to. You can just build the URL and use it through Google Analytics and see in numbers, in revenue. Okay, I did this campaign on social media. How much revenue did it lead to through Google Analytics? I think, again, we try to make these things too complicated. You can measure how much money social media is bringing in if you take these steps. It takes a little bit of work to set these up, but once you do, you become used to this process, and from then on, social media is so much easier to tangibly measure. Last question. What value can you offer before your leads become paying customers? What initial value can you upfront say, okay, I'm going to give you this ebook, this demo, this 30-day free trial? We all have something. I think we have to advertise. We have sort of a billboard. It's not the case. You have something that you can offer your customers, whether it's on the retail side, as simple as a coupon. If it's on the service side, a free trial, an ebook, an exclusive video series, something of that nature. You have something of value you can offer to your leads to establish a trusted relationship. Here's why. Because if you can build a relationship with a lead, they are much more likely to become a customer, because then you're seen as a trusted source, a friend, a trusted thought leader. That term is way overused, but so forgive me for that. But you're seen as a trusted resource and not just an advertisement. That is really where social media takes marketing in a new direction, where we become not just advertisers, not just, a 30-second TV spot. You can become a trusted source. Customers will buy from their friends. And I use the term friends loosely because, these are your customers, your consumers, not necessarily the friend that you go have coffee with. But if you can establish a relationship that is like a friendship because you offered something of value, you offered an educational blog post, you offered a video series, you offered an infographic, you offered an ebook, what we call a freemium model. Freemium, I referred to that earlier, but I don't think I called it freemium. You're familiar with freemium even if you don't know it. Freemium is where you have a certain user set, certain feature set that's available for free, or usually it's not necessarily a free trial. It's actually, although a free trial could be under a larger umbrella, usually it's a smaller feature set that's available for free, and then you can pay to upgrade. My example of MailChimp applies here too, because MailChimp offers, if you haven't done any email marketing, it's a great resource to check out, because MailChimp offers a certain number of subscribers and email blasts for free, and then you can pay to upgrade to the next level. Same thing with video sites like Vimeo. Same thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a social media example of this. It's a perfect example because LinkedIn offers basic level features for free, and then you can pay to have job searches and people searches and all these job postings and all these extra things, and networking with people, being able to contact people who are not in your network. LinkedIn, perfect example of the freemium model, where you have certain feature set available, and then you can upgrade through some sort of monthly payment to the higher levels. But I actually loop that in. I bring that into the larger collection of things that you have, if you think about it, to offer value up front. Be the trusted resource. Don't be a billboard. I think we get so caught up in let's have just something that's clickable, something that's I've got to broadcast. I've got to talk about my sales. I've got to talk about what's on special on Twitter, on Facebook, and we forget that social media is about building relationships, because that's what people come to social media to do. Believe it or not, shock of all shocks, people are not on social media to buy from you. They may be searching on Google, they may be asking their friends for particular product recommendations on Facebook, but they, more often than not, the vast majority, do not come to social media to buy something. They come to look at pictures of their grandkids. They come to share where they were at the party last night and why weren't you there. That's why they're on social media. So if you can offer them something of value before they become a customer, it's almost like a friendship. It's almost, and I'm not asking you to deceive your customers, not at all. I'm just suggesting that you can establish a similar type of relationship by offering them value rather than trying to sell to them. And the benefit of that, and let's just tie this back to what we're actually talking about today, which is how to measure social media. The benefit of doing this is that it's highly trackable. It's enormously trackable once people are in the system. So once you've gotten them in by getting their email address, so the way you actually would structure this, and I'm sure you've seen this done countless times, is to get that infographic, to get that exclusive video series, to get that value for free, for nothing, because again, that first bullet point, customers don't have to buy something to get something, but in order to get them in, you've asked them for some contact info, their email address, depending on the service, possibly a phone number. I mean, I don't know how much info your customers in your industry are willing to give you, but probably at the very minimum, you've asked for an email address. And once they're in the system, then they're in Salesforce, then they're in Pardot, then they're in HubSpot, then they're in one of these trackable services you have. And MailChimp even has some services that allow you some marketing automation. But once they're in the system, then you can track them. Then you can see exactly what that customer is worth, exactly what that lead is worth, because you have their info. You can now follow them around with ads. You can do so many, it opens up so many doors to you that you didn't have open before you had their contact info. So it's not, yes, it's about these altruistic, let's offer value, but at the same time, it's, Lena, I disappeared. I'm sorry to interrupt my train of thought, but Lena posted a great stat just now about how many people unfollow because the company is just selling. Yes, 100%. I mean, that's not the actual, that's not the actual stat, but I'm saying I agree. I agree 100%. Yes, people unfollow because it's just too much sell. Become a resource. But my point that I was making on the back end of that is, you are selling. You are. You become a trusted resource, but it's really for your benefit. It's not just for the benefit of the customer who learns to trust you and come back because you offer them either something for free or something super valuable. The benefit is yours because now they're in your system. You know how much they're worth. You have their email address, and you can create one of those drip campaigns that we've all had, that we do with Slash Media. Be totally transparent. We do the same thing. We have those campaigns, and those leads are incredibly valuable to us. So we're giving value, and we're getting tons of value back. It's so symbiotic. It's When you start, I'm not telling you anything new. You know this. It's just a matter of putting that puzzle piece together, of creating the valuable content so that you can get something in return. You're giving them value. They're getting a trust relationship. You're getting value in return. I've talked way too much about this. I probably talked that part to death, but that's the idea. I think that first bullet point really says it all. Customers in the social media age know that they can get something for free. So if you don't offer it, they're going to go somewhere else. That is the reality. Customers know they do not have to buy something anymore in order to get something in return. But there is no return. I mean, that's the whole point. They get something without paying any money. There's no return. They just get something for free in this world of social media marketing now. So if you are not the person to offer that value, they will find it elsewhere. That is the bottom line. And I hope maybe that, plus the idea that social media doesn't operate on its own, not a silo, not an island, it's part of your marketing, take this away as well. That if it makes it so much more trackable for you, and on the customer's end, they will find it somewhere else if they can't find it with you. And the benefit is all yours. It's theirs too, but it's all yours in terms of trackability. Because if you're trying to measure success, having them go through, adding social media as part of your funnel is where it's all going to happen. When you add social media because you've sent people to your lead generation form, or you sent them a piece of content that's behind an email gate, making social media part of that system means that you can measure the success. That's the message for today. That was our March workshop. I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you so much to Julio for moderating today. In a second, I'm going to switch. I know we're out of time here, but I'm going to switch quickly back over to our chat room so that I can address anything. I think Julio has done a fabulous job of addressing things that came in, but I'll just take a quick look there. April's topic, can't wait to have you join us in April. And I think we'll be publishing the date soon. If we haven't already, I'll confirm that with Julio. Maybe let's talk about that first before we publish the date, just so we're on the same page. But we'll be publishing that date soon if you're on our list. The topic, using LinkedIn's own strategy for your business on LinkedIn. I think it's really worth checking out. What is LinkedIn doing for themselves to market their platform on like I'm in a spiral here. This is very meta. What is LinkedIn doing to market on LinkedIn? What is LinkedIn? Let me just say how many times I can say LinkedIn. What is LinkedIn doing to market LinkedIn on LinkedIn? Come learn with us in April. Can't wait to see you there. I'm going to take a quick look at our chat room here. Thank you so much for joining us.